Chapter 102, Breakthrough. Something was different. The absence inside Jake wasn't as suffocating as it had been. The missing piece, the hollow space where his sight had lived, no longer pressed against him like a weight. Either the exercises were finally working, or something out there had shifted. He could feel it, his essence. It was distant, thin, hard to grasp, but it was there. It had happened suddenly. One moment it had been completely blocked. Unable to feel even the faintest thread of power, he pushed into his fragile little constructs. The next, while working through a repetition of control, it flickered back into reach. Shallow, faint, but real. Jake leaned forward on his bed, breathing carefully. He started the exercises again from the beginning, hands hovering in front of him, fingers trembling slightly as he tried to trace the sensation. A knock sounded at the door. He ignored it. He couldn't lose this. He focused harder. The door opened anyway, first a crack, then wider. His concentration snapped, and he looked up with a scowl. You feel it too, don't you? Emily asked from the doorway. Jake nodded once. Something changed. She stepped inside and shut the door quietly behind her. Crossing the room, she sat beside him on the bed and glanced at the tablet in his lap. A paused video showed a strange structure made of interlocking sticks. The title mentioned advanced control techniques. I can almost see again, Jake muttered, flipping the tablet face down. Emily's eyes widened. She felt the shift too, but differently. Where Jake sounded hopeful, she felt the opposite. Her power was still there, but it had been like standing behind glass, close enough to see, too far to touch. When it had been completely severed, there was nothing to think about. Now, the distance was unbearable. He's gone, Jake said, brow furrowing as he concentrated. Who's gone? Emily asked quietly. There was a mage blocking our powers. Jake closed his eyes, his fists clenched and unclenched rhythmically. You can see? She whispered. Jake gave the faintest nod. What's happening? She wasn't sure if she wanted an answer. It's fuzzy, still far away, but he trailed off. Emily stood and began pacing, chewing her lower lip. The door cracked open again. Nina slipped in without knocking. You feel it too, don't you? She asked softly. She took in the scene instantly. Jake focused, Emily tense, and said nothing more. A third interruption came without subtlety. Cup pushed the door open and leaned casually against the frame. You want to work on our guild stuff, Jake? He glanced at the two girls. What's going on? Emily hissed for him to be quiet. Can't you feel that? Nina asked, staring at him like he'd missed something obvious. Feel what? Cup shrugged. Our powers are back, Nina whispered. Cup smirked. Emily and Nina rolled their eyes in perfect synchronization. Jake was trembling now, though not from fear, from a pressure that he was pushing on from within. Jake, Emily said, sitting beside him and wrapping an arm around her shoulders, you're shaking. I'm fine, he said through clenched teeth. It's getting easier. He opened his eyes suddenly and smiled. The trembling stopped. Yeah, Cup, he said lightly. Let's talk about our guild or whatever. Emily and Nina exchanged a look. They had definitely missed something. Cup grinned. Hamburgers? Jake stood immediately. Hamburgers, he agreed. The two boys left the room as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. Emily stared after them. What just happened? What was that? Nina echoed her. They followed. In the kitchen, Cup grabbed burgers from the fridge. He hesitated only long enough to snag a beer, then reconsidered and grabbed a soda too, before heading to the backyard after Jake. A few others were already outside, talking quietly. All right, guys, Cup announced loudly. Let's talk about what we want to name our school or house or guild or whatever. What? Emily demanded from the door, patience finally cracking. You know, Cup continued, nodding emphatically. Aaron said we're supposed to be leaders for Earth. We're forming an organization. Jake and I thought it'd be cool to make houses or clans or something. Now's as good a time as any, right? Emily looked at Nina again, completely lost. Come on, Emily, Aaron called as he stepped out of the back door and brushed past them. Just like those books you always liked. Aaron, Emily stared at him as if he'd grown a second head. Yeah, Em? He said easily. She narrowed her eyes. Jake tilted his head slightly. Actually, no one's close right now, and none of them are watching directly. The yard went still. There's only three, he added after a moment. Only three you can see, Cup corrected, nudging him. Jake shook his head. No, just three. The rest are getting ready for their operation. Cup raised a brow. You're sure? Jake smiled, confident. Yeah, I'm sure. Emily noticed his hand trembling as he spoke. Silence settled over the group as the meaning sank in. Nina's eyes widened. You were acting casual so they wouldn't know we noticed? Emily's jaw dropped. What all have I missed? Aaron doubled over laughing, struggling to breathe. Cup rolled his eyes. I didn't even realize at first, Jake admitted. I was just hungry and needed space. You were crowding me. You've all been talking in code this whole time? Emily demanded. Cup shrugged. We never really worked out a code that worked for everyone. Emily turned back to Jake. Why aren't we worried now? We trust Jake, Aaron said simply. You barely know him, she shot back. Aaron shrugged again. He's a good kid. Jake flushed. Cup ruffled his hair and pulled him briefly into a headlock. Jake squirmed free, grumbling. So we're not talking about the guild? He asked, annoyed and disappointed. Cup laughed. Not yet. We've got bigger things to worry about now. Everyone turned to him. A quiet settled. Like what? Jake asked. Cup's expression shifted, still easy, but sharper. Like what we're going to do about the Shapers and how you got your powers back. The air felt different, lighter, and heavier at the same time.